Hey everybody, today I bring you petty revenge stories. A lion just marked its territory on my face. And that's not even the craziest revenge story I have for you today. Story 1 is titled, The Time a Caged Lion Got Its Petty Revenge on Me. So yeah, this was a time I got owned by an actual lion. Now a lion can rip you apart if it wants to, obviously, except for this caged lion. I was maybe 12 give or take, but it was the early 80s. My memory around the event is hazy. It's the event that stands out, but I was in some sort of summer science program which I loved. We learned about computers and stuff. I remember sort of a miniature hologram or optical illusion at one point. They kept it varied. This time, we'd been taken to a kind of mini zoo. They walked us around, talked to us about stuff as we looked, but then it ended early. I think they didn't realize the little tour they'd planned didn't quite fill the time allotted, so they told us we just had free time to explore. And to meet back at such and such a place in like an hour. In hindsight, not having supervision for that long seems odd, but hey, it was the 80s. I'd later be called Generation X, and for those who know, this was normal. So I didn't know the other kids, and I was kind of an introvert, so I went off on my own. I wanted to see that lion again, in that big cage kind of in the middle of the area. He'd seemed angry. I'd never been in the presence of an angry lion before, even if I was separated from him by another row of bars about 20 feet, and I thought it'd be cool. I was 12 or so. I was feeling myself. I went to look at him. No one else was really around, and immediately his eyes locked in and he started pacing fast back and forth. In my prepubescent brain, I thought, what are you gonna do, lion? You're caged. I didn't start anything with you and you can't eat me. Then he growled, almost a roar, eyes locked. I took a little offense. I was just looking after all, so I roared back, kind of mocking him. Roar! He didn't like it, so he picked up the pace and growled louder. So I growled louder. Normally I wouldn't have, but there was no one else around, so I matched his roar. Roar! You're in a cage, I thought. What are you gonna do? He turned around, actually turning his back, like I won. That's what I thought. I thought I stood up to a lion. I challenged him, like for dominance, and I won. And he was cowered by well, that's when I think it was a he had a mane and everything. That's when he, with his back turned, facing away from me, lifted his tail and just sprayed, like big. Think like a cone, spreading out to a spray bigger than a 12-year-old boy. I had my mouth open in disbelief. You heard right, that lion in its cage just made me its witch. I blinked, stood there for a moment as he calmly walked away from the engagement, not even looking back. I wiped my face. It didn't really smell, for which I was eternally grateful. I found a bathroom and washed what I could. My clothes just looked like I had ran through a sprinkler or something. Nobody else knew, but I knew, and he knew. About 20 minutes later, I looked back to see where the lion was, about 100 feet away now, and I wasn't going anywhere near him anymore. That was wise, because what I saw was another kid getting sprayed. Same as me. This lion knew how to get his revenge. That's hysterical and messy. This proves people are right. Animals do have feelings. Who knew a lion knew exactly how to get petty revenge? Story 2 will mean something for people who hate spoilers. If you've ever had a show that you had to watch after it aired, or a movie that you couldn't see as fast as everyone else, you may feel this story. Titled, Friend Kept Spoiling Every Show for Me, so I spoiled one that didn't exist. I have this friend, Mark, who's a human Twitter notification. If a new episode drops at 3 a.m., by 3:05, he's in the group chat like, oh my god, X dies in the first scene. and then follows it with, LOL, sorry bro, you should have watched it earlier. I muted him, asked him nicely, even tried watching stuff earlier, but I have a job and life. Mark apparently doesn't. A couple months ago, everyone in our friend group got obsessed with this new sci-fi show. And I was actually keeping up for once. Of course, Mark still managed to text me mid-commute with, wait till you see episode 5. I snapped a little and said, okay, game on. I found out he hadn't started it yet because he was saving it to binge. So I went to Reddit, saw some theories, and made up my own completely fake plot. Main character? Secretly a clone. Love interest betrays him. The dog is an alien spy. The whole thing is inside a simulation. I dropped this massive wall of spoilers in the chat like, can't believe they revealed all this in episode 3. Mark lost it and rage typed about how I ruined it for him and how he was going to delete the app, blah blah blah. A couple weeks later, he finally binge watched and realized literally none of what I said happens at all. He came back with a half-hearted, you're such a jerk, but he hasn't spoiled a single thing since. Now, if he starts to type too much about a show, someone just says, careful, might be a clone dog situation, he shuts up real quick. This sounds like it could be like a live-action comic book guy kind of situation.
The worst episode ever.
I'm lucky enough not to know the kind of person who will do this. I try to avoid spoilers like the plague, and if I happen to run into them, I watch the show and then I'm praying what I read was wrong. I'm one of those people that even though I've seen something 100 times, I'll still hope that it turns out different the 101st time. For story 3, I guess we can still consider it petty revenge, but it's quite smelly. Titled, Farted on my stupid coworker. This happened a while ago, but I figured I'd share. I used to work as a hostess at a massive 3-floor bar and restaurant. One bartender, Mac, had the tendency to do what I like to call Macsplaining. He would always go on about how the highest paying tables should always be seated in his section. Before my shift, he'd always give me the same lame speech about his section of the restaurant was the most prime seating with the best service. So of course, I should only be seating people there who look like they're going to spend a lot of money, whatever that means. Typically, I'd just be like, whatever, Mac, and then seat people there without profiling them. Because obviously, this place was always jam-packed with a massive line, so it's not like there was much room to shuffle people based on how much they look like they might ball out. Also, how the heck am I supposed to gauge who's going to ball out? Anyways, Mac took this personally apparently. One time, I sat a group of older women celebrating a birthday in his section, and they ended up ordering food with no drinks and then left. Mac went on this massive tirade about how I was incompetent at my job and how I should clearly have known those women weren't going to spend much money and should have clearly sat them in another server section that wasn't Mac's. One shift, I felt a particularly heinous fart brewing and got a sinister idea. For context, I'm not just a regular farter. A lifetime of terribly disordered eating habits has rendered my gut to be a few strokes shy of a chemical weapon, and I've instigated a few heated arguments on fart politics amongst my friends, all with the power of a single fart. So there Mac is, behind the bar washing glasses as fast as he can during a rush, and I thought, wow, how helpful would I be to go put them away behind the bar while he makes orders for customers. So of course I go out of my way to go behind the bar to help Mac. And right as he's behind me shaking cocktails, I let it rip. Some of my most finest work, if I must add. I peeked over to see if Mac had been caught in the radius, and sure enough, there he is with his face twisted in disgust. To make matters worse, there were these two pretty girls seated across from him at the bar, seemingly clear of the nuke zone. As I was fleeing the scene, I caught Mac trying unsuccessfully to keep his cool in the midst of the stench while attempting to chat up these girls. The satisfaction of the moment led me to get a little carried away, and I started systematically targeting Mac whenever I needed to fart on shift. One time I even made myself a protein-packed green smoothie to up the impact after a shift where he'd been particularly menacing. When I saw Mac frantically talking to a manager, pointing to the open drain under the bar and checking the fridges for milk spills, I knew I'd gone too far. Anyways, Mac, wish you the best. You thought you were a smart fella, but you're really a fart smeller. Lol. I've heard of farts being crowd control, but apparently now they're bad coworker control. Normally, they say revenge is best served cold. This time, revenge was served wet, full of fake spoilers, and it was stinky. Sometimes petty revenge is a great way to teach people how to behave a little bit. They didn't really get anything hurt except their pride, and in Mac's case, his nose. He might be the only one to never really learn the lesson or really find out that it was petty revenge unless he reads Reddit, then he might know now. If you enjoy watching people get exactly what they deserve and maybe learning their lesson without getting hurt, the party doesn't have to stop now. We've got a whole playlist of petty revenge. Click on the thumbnail on the screen now and keep going down the rabbit hole. I'll see you over there.